Let's vote. Let's get out the 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 vote. Let's win.
Was amazing. Kamala closing her campaign with a heaping, serving a cringe as the Veep and Donald Trump make their final push to win over undecided voters in swing states, Jesse. Right now, this race is tighter than the hairpiece that's glued to Jesse's scalp. Trump is closing like a madman with 4 rallies across 3 swing states, while Harris is sticking to one place, the Commonwealth of PA.
We stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America's promise, and we will take back the nation that we all love so much.
It's about the win, and it is about more. It is about more. It is about just strengthening our country and reminding each other we are all in this together. We rise and fall together.
I've been waiting 4 years for this. We're just one day away from what will be the most important political event in the history of our country.
It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next president of the United States of America.
But that's just a warm-up to Kamala's star-studded finale in Philly, featuring Joker 2 star Lady Gaga, Latin sensation Rick Martin, and talk show queen Oprah.
Never heard of her.
Never heard of her. But Van Jones is worried the celeb bonanza finale could backfire.
Only people understand. Working people sometimes have to choose. Am I going to go to the big, cool concert this week and pay for babysitting for that? Or am I going to try to figure out a way to get to the polls? I don't like these big star-studded events. In fact, probably helped us lose last time. I don't want people going to concerts. I want people knocking on doors. I want people out there fighting for this thing. I'm just nervous.
All right, Dana, I have to come to you first because you seem to understand the coils and the engine of this whole system. And I don't understand, as we add more experts and analysis, the election doesn't become more transparent. It becomes more complicated. It's like we turned the election into a phone plan or a cable provider where there's I don't even know what I'm listening to.
Britt Hume said something this morning in Newsroom that I thought was true. You know, sometimes you get frustrated with your phone and you just want to go back to a paper calendar.
Yes.
Because that's when you knew, everything was there. He said back earlier when he was reporting in his beginning of his career, you would, as a reporter, go and actually talk to people and get the feel for it. And now everything is so overpolled and social media is distorting things and you just don't necessarily have a good feel. So no one really knows exactly what's going to happen. I do want to add one thing, though. It's smart for her to stay in Pennsylvania because if she doesn't win Pennsylvania, she's not going to win the presidency. And Van Jones, who we just showed from CNN, he also said during that same hit that he said, nothing is making me happy about Pennsylvania. He said, I'm nervous all the time, but he said, Philadelphia is where they need big numbers, but it's been trending down. And it's not in terms of people, of just Republicans, it's just people are not going out to vote. So we started this with her chanting, let's get out the vote, let's get out the vote. I don't know if the chanting is going to do it. I don't know if Cardi B is going to do it or Lady Gaga or Oprah even could do it. Because if people don't feel motivated to go out and vote in Pennsylvania, that's going to be really tough for her.
If only she had put Shapiro on the ticket, but she had to keep the Jew off the ticket, Jessica.
My favorite game.
Yes. Isn't it an interesting microcosm of America? Lady Gaga endorsing Kamala, but Lady Gaga's dad endorsing Trump. So who has a closer grip on reality of everyday Americans? The one who feels the effects of a bad economy or crime or immigration, the restaurant owner in a crime-plagued city, or the pop star, his daughter. Shouldn't she listen to her dad instead of her friends?
I think she's listening to herself. She was born
That's
this
always a
way,
mistake.
and she has always lived this way. And I don't think we need to pit families against each other. He has had success, and she has obviously had wild success and is an incredible talent. And there's no reason to minimize her for this. There is reason to consider if there will be someone who sees this as the final night is just about stars and it's not about Kamala Harris making her pitch. She will, I'm sure, give her same stump speech that she has been giving, which has been wildly effective. Now, in every survey, the late breakers are going for Kamala by double-digit margins. And Trump used to be leading in that category of people who were deciding closer to the end from 4 to 6 weeks out. But the last 2 weeks, it's been about her. But, Van Jones says, I want people knocking on doors. They're having to send home canvassers because they have so many. And on Saturday, this was incredible. The Harris campaign was knocking on 2,000 doors a minute across Pennsylvania.
2,000 a minute, you
A
say?
minute,
A minute.
I say.
My goodness.
Yeah, and you just don't hear those kinds of stories from the Trump campaign. Now, that's not to say that
Maybe
they
'cause they're
don't
lies.
exist. They're not lies. My mom is right now in Scranton knocking on doors.
Really?
Oh.
What? You got something against my mom now?
What?
Oh, you said it.
Of course
like,
not.
wow.
No, we all said wow.
Wow. Oh, okay. Anyway, the closing message differential is so stark, though, and you are seeing the effect of this on people who are making these late decisions and just the conversations about how it's ending. So Donald Trump has had to be in North Carolina, which I'm sure he's not thrilled about. So that's the only battleground state that he actually won. He had to go back there. And this rally that he gave yesterday morning, the first one, the morning in Pennsylvania, where he did everything from saying, he shouldn't have left in 2020 to that weird comment about, shooting the media, that they'd have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much. So his spokesperson had to come out and clarify that. Now, if you want to say everything about Trump taken out of context, it doesn't matter. He only has a finite amount of time left to tell the American public that their lives will be better under another Trump administration than under a Kamala Harris administration. And she's the one that's actually making those connections. She's the one that's convincing people that she'd be as good on the economy. She's completely erased his lead there.
It is. We will get into that in the B block. She seems to be actually not talking about any policy at all, Judge.
Yeah, so I'm curious, when people go knock on doors, what do they say Kamala's policy is? Other than, she's this great person who wanted to decriminalize the crossing of the border by illegals and who wanted to ban fracking and confiscate guns and eliminate private health insurance. When they knock on doors, I'm curious as to whether they have answers for that. But look, here's the issue. She's in Pennsylvania 4 times tomorrow, okay? She's doing that because she needs to do that. Had she chosen Josh Shapiro, if she ends up losing this race over Pennsylvania, it will be on her totally for not picking a guy because he was Jewish, for not picking a guy because he would outshine her. Now, there are 300,000 Jewish votes in Pennsylvania. 80% of them are Democrats. So the smart thing to do would have been to allow Shapiro to carry the weight on that. But she wasn't smart enough to do that. So now she's got to be in Pennsylvania all day tomorrow. Let's talk about this over-polling. I'm sick and tired of the polls. The one thing I do know is that Democrats are 16 times more likely to pick up a phone and get involved in polling. That's number one. Number two, 70% of America thinks that we're going in the wrong direction. All right. Number three, 65% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not like everybody's like, yeah, let's keep going with the Biden administration, because she can't think of one thing she would do differently. And in the end, the Kamala camp is worried because they keep telling women, I don't know how good their polling is, it's okay if you don't tell your husband that you're voting for Kamala. And then she says to the bros, hey, bros, it's okay if you don't tell your men friends you're voting for Kamala. She's worried about that shy Kamala vote. So I think she's got a lot more to worry about. And in the end, his message is a positive one. We're going to have a golden era. He's good with the economy. It was better when he was there, and that he has done it before, and she can't even articulate it.
Jesse, I saved the Jesse for last.
Yeah.
Can you respond to Jessica's
I would love to.
optimism about Kamala? And also, what do you make of the polls, the shy voter phenomenon, and my new shirt?
I'm not a fan of the shirt.
Okay.
It's a little too urban for me. But it looks good on you, Greg.
Thank you.
I can tell you did chess this morning. Jessica keeps talking about all this door knocking. Well, it's not working because the Democrat machine in Pennsylvania has gone kaput. The early vote is way down for Democrats. Female votes down, urban votes down, and the rural vote is way up. So you can knock on as many doors as you want. The Republicans have sliced the early vote lead in half, and that's why they're terrified. You talk about these late breakers or going to Kamala Harris. What survey is that? I haven't seen that survey. The Democrats keep talking about this mysterious survey.
It's in Marist. It's in the Univision poll.
Well, no one's seen anything like that.
I literally just told you where it
because
is.
if it's actually happening, it would show up in the early vote. And across the board in every single battleground, the Republicans are either winning the early vote or they've actually just destroyed the Democrats'
traditional. You're cannibalizing your election day vote, potentially.
You think it's cannibalized.
Maybe.
But if you look at the data, it's low propensity voters that they're turning out. And Republicans always show up on election day. So what the Democrats, Greg, are deciding to do or relying on, they are now relying on this avalanche of enthusiasm on election day that has never happened before for Democrats. Democrats never produce huge avalanches of voter turnout on election day. They have to have that with Black Americans, Hispanic Americans. If there's that type of enthusiasm, why isn't it showing up in the early vote? It's a great question, because there's no enthusiasm. I have a theory here about Shapiro.
Yes.
Obama's wingman was in charge of the VP processing. You know, Obama loves Shapiro. They went with Walz instead. It's almost like they burned Walz on an L because they wanted to save Shapiro for 4 years.
Interesting theory.
Is it?
Not really. I was just being nice.
That's sweet of you.
Yeah.
It's
Shapiro
interesting.
didn't really want the job.
Interesting.
I'm just crushed over Ricky
Don't blame
Martin.
him.
I'm burning all my Menudo albums. Ricky Martin. All right, up next, Kamala refuses to squeal on Callie's Tough on Crime appeal.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.